Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards. I say this every time we do a show, man. We've got a good one for you today. We've got a great guest. And right off the bat here, we're going to talk a little bit about something that Brian said in his bio that really caught my interest. Brian put down casting your pebble and be the ripple you wish to see
Now,
in the world. So let me introduce our guest, Brian Neilson. Brian, thank you for being here with us. Greatly appreciate your time and your vulnerability for wanting to come on the show and tell your story.
but you're kind of cutting out though after things start kind of going
Am I? Huh?
sound.
You hear me okay now, though? You got me good?
Real low, maybe. Hopefully, it's not my.
Yeah, because I'm
just
I'm up all the way on the volume.
If I get a few words out of you and then it cuts out again.
It cuts out. Huh?
Wait,
What about now?
I think I'll be. Let's.
You good now?
There.
Can you hear me good?
Can hear you.
Okay. All right. So Brian, what did you mean by that saying, casting your pebble and be the ripple you wish to see in the world?
It comes from. I spend a lot of time in those prisons, hospital for my mental illness. Towards the end part, when I was some kind of recovery or some kind of journey, I used to read a lot of poetry. The poems I wrote was called "Around the World." Was based off of all the stuff I'd done in my addiction and mental illness.
Okay.
And then and in the poem, it kind of described all the people and all the destruction that my illnesses. And then in the end, it kind of turned around, sending some ripples around hope. And so that motto, that's what I kind of think. Be that ripple. You want to be that ripple
Yeah.
that you think would be the most.
Yeah, I love that saying, and I have heard it before. I don't remember where. I don't know if I saw it on a picture somewhere. Or it's yeah, it's a really good saying. Now, you're originally from Salt Lake, right? You're born and raised here in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was your family life like growing up?
It was pretty rough growing up. It was earliest years was on a farm. My grandpa was quite bold. He didn't mind, you got the switches and all that kind of stuff. And then there was there was some other life going on. We got some divorces mixed in, and we ended up, in a single mom home, and she was struggling working 2 jobs. So there was a lot of verbal and physical and sexual abuse going on at that time. I ended up being a early, probably late elementary, early junior high school. I was mostly a runaway, trying to take care of myself, trying to stay, in the groove or just survive. Doing that, I learned to, how to do all the criminalistic stuff to try to take care of myself and do all the drugs and things like that. So it was kind of rough, but I mean, everybody else got the same kind of rough. We all got our own circumstances, right?
Yeah. And I like to ask that question because, again, it goes back to one of our missions here on the other side of addiction, and that's to get rid of that stigma, right? Because and I've said many times, I'm just as guilty, right? You go downtown, you see the alcoholics, the addicts, the unsheltered, and you automatically start judging them, right? You put a label on them, not even knowing about what their past was like. And now that I've put myself in the recovery community and watched my wife go through her battle of addiction, and of course, I had my own battle with cocaine and alcohol back in the 2000s. I've come to realize all that stuff they're just the band-aids. It's just a mask that people are using so they don't feel what they've been felt, right? A lot of pain. And I mean, gosh, we've had guests who, I mean, started using. Our earliest person was at 5 years old. He started drinking, and he was a full blown alcoholic by junior high school. And it's kind of crazy because he came from a pretty good life, right? Had good
Yeah.
parents and had a fairly good life. And we've had people who have gone on LDS missions and then come home from their missions and fall into the drugs and alcohol, or vice versa. So again, it's our mission. One of our missions is to get people to understand these individuals who are battling things, they're just covering something up that they don't want to feel. And tell you, every single one of us, I think, do that. It's just
I
some go a little deeper.
I think it's human nature, right? You got to kind of try to do that. Another side of it is the stigma. You gotta fit into society and things like that. To be an outcast, like one of the people downtown he was talking about, carries its own set of judgments, and so I'm on a mission right now with some of the other leaders in the state they're calling it the grand challenge. We're trying to smash out stigma around mental health and substance use addiction behaviors. So it's kind of a national challenge that's going on. We're working on right now.
Wow, that's cool. I'm actually working on a TED Talks about stigma.
Are you?
Yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah,
I got
yeah. I definitely want to make that happen. I've been working on it for a while, and I think I almost have it where I want it to be. And then it's going to take some practicing to memorize it so I can get up on stage and share it the way I want to share it, because I want to share it very aggressively, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it does
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You got to get up there and keep the energy going when you're talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
done it several times, not TED Talks, but I do a lot of that kind of stuff myself, and I like to keep the energy going.
Well, you're
Um,
you're a CPSS, right? And for our listeners who don't know what that means, that's a certified peer support specialist. Is that correct?
yeah, I'm a certified peer support specialist. I've been that for 11 years. I've been a certified peer support specialist trainer for the Utah State University CPSS training program for about 10 of those years. Since Utah decided to start doing our own trainings, I've been training and implementing CPSS into the state, trying to create healthier workforce, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. We had a young lady, and I feel bad because I don't remember her name. And it was a couple of months ago. She was on the show, and she's from Utah State. And that's what she does is she works with USARA and a lot of different places to help with training for certified peer support specialists. And I guess she's also working very hard along with some of her people under her team to help also get more funding and more pay for people who do that.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at too. We've got a bunch of things going on right now. We got some grants that are actually paying people quite a bit of money to do a practicum and then actually an apprenticeship. And so we're creating some advanced certificates that's going to help the workforce later in the years. And there's a lot of stuff going on with it. That's why I created the Utah Association of Peer Support Specialists, because there's so many of them out there now that we kind of got to create an association and kind of smooth things out and hold things together better.
Yeah.
It's kind of where I'm at now.
Now, don't you guys have a grand opening coming up, or a ribbon cutting or something?
Tomorrow, actually,
Is it tomorrow?
yeah, from 4 to 7, and then Saturday we got a bounce house and some carnival kind of stuff going on for the kids, and but that'll be from 1 to 7 on Saturday. We're just hoping people come down and just hang out. And
Well, my wife and I will be there. So my wife works out at Odyssey, and so she's already downtown, and I told her that after I get off work and come home and get cleaned up, I think I'm planning on meeting her out there like about 5:30. So you and I will have an opportunity to meet in person because I'm sure you're going to be there, right?
I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
So we are going to be there. We're going to come out and support you guys.
That would be awesome. We're
Yeah.
hoping the whole community comes out. I mean, I'm looking forward to hooking up with you. I think there's a lot of stuff we can do in the community still to kind of grow recovery across Utah. So
I
that would
agree.
be awesome.
I agree 100%. So, my gosh, when I was looking at your bio, you said that you battled addiction for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you probably get asked this question a lot, Brian. How the hell are you still here?
I got no idea. I think it was prison, even though
Right?
I was doing a lot of drugs in prison too, but I spent a lot of time, probably almost 20 years in and out of prison. And so they probably saved my butt that way because some when I got out, I was like way overboard on the drugs and stuff, but that might be what saved me. I don't know. And then treatment, of course. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
found,
our higher power must have something planned for you. You've got some stuff, some work to do in it, and it sounds like you're already doing it. And I don't know what you look at as your higher power. It's whatever works for you, right?
yeah,
I do believe that many of us are looked over to go down a path so we can be there to help other individuals.
I do too. If you want to know the truth, my journey actually started at suicide. I was trying to, I bailed out of jail with the intent of just hanging out, enjoying some family time, and committing suicide. So I didn't go back to prison again. Um, but you speak about a higher power. I took a lot of steps in my plan so that nothing could happen to prevent me actually committing the acts. And somehow I got no idea, but all that stuff kind of got overran, and I ended up back in jail trying to figure out how to do it in jail. Um, and these ladies walked in, and you, if you've ever been in jail, you walk around in squares, listen to everybody talk about, whatever they're talking about. And I'm just frustrated and mad, right? I want to continue with my plan. And these girls walk in, they said, Neilson. I said, what the hell now, And so I go talk to these ladies. They said, are you done? I said, oh, I'm done. You don't know how done I am. And they just got me into some treatment. It was like a unicorn. It was like I've never seen nothing like that happen in my whole entire life. And then they fought the courts and got me into treatment. And ever since then, it's been quite the journey.
I like how you said it was like a unicorn.
it was, I got no, I even asked him, I said, what are you guys just magic? You're just going to tell the judge just to not send me to prison and let me go to your program. And that's not the way things work. It's usually
Yeah.
catch Brian, put him back in prison. So are you guys unicorns or what? I told them that. It goes,
Oh man.
it was
So was it from I'm guessing it's one of our organizations here in Salt Lake, right? Because there are a few like Red Barn and Tosa who actually help people from going to prison and get them in programs.
Yeah, that was actually Valley Behavioral Health
Okay.
was actually opening a new program called the Core Unit. It was for people with dual disorders, with SPIMI diagnosis with long-term criminal histories and substance abuse all wrapped together. And so there was just opening beds. And so I was one of the first people into their program. I got no idea how they found my name. I didn't apply. It was just like, it really was like magical miracle or something happened. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like a Cinderella story.
It is. And the other part of my quote that you was talking about in the beginning is one of the counselors there, one of the therapists used to have a quote. I think it was from Gandhi about be the change you wish to see.
Yeah.
That's kind of what my poem originated from. And then the ripple is kind of the same thing as from that quote. She had some crazy quotes that she'd bring up. One of them was, "You don't want to be dead in a ditch, do you?"
Yeah,
I
it's dead in a ditch.
probably don't.
Yeah, right. It's crazy, and there are quite a few people who battle addiction who also suffer from, I guess, mental health, right? And you talked about in your bio that I think it was like 20 years of schizophrenia. Is that correct?
Yeah, my schizophrenia kicked in the late 80s. I remember to this day because I was, it's just a cool addict, doing all the drugs, and I was a cool guy. And then all of a sudden, I went from that to everybody was scared of me. Nobody believed anything I was saying. It was like I was alone in a world of chaos. Uh, I lived like that for almost 10 years before somebody tried. It was my legal defender actually seen me one day in court, and he said, "Dude, you need some help." And so he got me got me help, got me some doctors to talk to, and we progressed from there.
Uh, and I don't know how schizophrenia comes across. I don't know how people end up with it. So, do you think it was just from starting out so young, being on your own? I mean, you were still a kid, right? And you're out there doing your best to survive.
Yeah, I was. I was living in the railroad tracks. It's in the trees by the side of railroad tracks. I wasn't even in eighth grade yet until I got caught, and they dragged me home to the other environment until I could run again. But I don't know what it was. I mean, schizophrenia, they say, is usually. Um, I think a lot of people have mental illness that they don't really know about. It's kind of a gene that gets activated by either your environmental aspects or traumas or, substance use could activate it. It's also biological and physical too, though. So
Okay.
all them factors kind of come into play. It's similar to like cancer. Everybody's got cancer cells and they don't really become active until something happens and then they become active. Similar to that, I guess. That's my understanding. I'm not.
Well,
I'm
it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it really does. It makes a ton of sense. Um,
I spent a year and a half in the state hospital, so medicated out, trying to get stable again. When they finally got me there, it was interesting because I got out of the state hospital, and for a year and a half, I didn't get in trouble. I didn't, it was crazy. I actually had a life going on, but I didn't address any of my substance abuse side of stuff when I was in there. And so eventually my substances came back into play and I ended up, relapsing on that. And then the mental stuff relapsed and then I was back in prison again.
hmm. What was your drug of choice that you had, or I guess it could be two drug of choices or drugs, right? Because a lot of people who are unsheltered, I mean, pretty much whatever's out there, they'll grab, right?
Yeah, anything is good by me. When my schizophrenia first kicked in, I was mostly just a weed alcoholic, kind of just partying kind of guy. I mean, I did all the other stuff, the acids and the mushrooms and the simple stuff. After my schizophrenia kicked in, a lot of my symptoms were the same as people were kind of expressing on the meth side of things. And I started doing a lot of meth because I felt like I fit in with that crowd, I guess. That turned out to be my drug of choice for the longest time. In prison, it was heroin, kind of, just stay numb, things like that.
Yeah, I can
Something-
imagine that if I had been sent to prison, I'd probably want to be all drugged out too, just to. And again, I don't know what all goes on there. You just kind of see what they show like on TV and different programs. However, it's totally different when you're there, right? It's not a program.
It is. It's more of a brotherhood. You get in there, you got to make some life adjustments. You adapt to some codes, the convict codes, and you just kind of live by them codes. Um, Sheltered within that community. It kind of works against you though once you get out and you want to try to start, getting into regular community living. Then all that stuff kind of works against you.
Yeah.
Uh, it was pretty hard getting past that. I call it an ex-con ego. I thought I was cool. You don't rat on people. You don't call me a punk. All this stuff that goes on inside the walls. And so one of my biggest early challenges was getting past that because I started working inside of treatment centers, and then people would call me, "Hey, you're just one of them. You're a punk ass bitch. You're just working for the man." And I had to get past it and let people have their beliefs and still try to be able to help and talk to them without picking up all the offenses or all the things that would normally happen inside living by that code. So it was quite challenging in the first beginning.
Do you feel there should be more programs out there to help those that are just getting out? I mean, because and the reason why I say that is my wife and I, we went over to a credit union. This was last summer, and she stayed outside to have a cigarette, and I went in and made this payment that I needed to make, and I come out and there's this guy talking to her, and they're both out there smoking, and the guy's holding a white sack basically that you could see he's got clothes in it, right? And I come walking out, I'm thinking, who the heck is this guy? And my wife introduces me to him, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. I'm pretty sure it was Dave. And he says, yeah, he just got out of prison, and he doesn't know where to go. Well, he has some place to go. He just doesn't know how to get there. And he's doing everything he can to stay away from downtown because he knows if he goes downtown, he's going to fall right back into the same crowd that got him in prison in the first place.
Yeah.
And we offered to take him. My wife knew which bus schedule because she lost her license from DUIs, right? So she became a master of knowing where the buses went and tracks. And she's like, "Oh, if we can take you to this bus stop and you get on this bus and it'll take you right where you want to go." And she says, "Babe, can we give him a ride?" And the old me, right? It's coming back, and I'm thinking, this guy just got out of freaking prison. I don't know if he's a freaking murderer. I don't know, and I had to pull away from that, right? Again, that stigma. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I would be happy to. And he was actually shocked. He goes, seriously, you guys will take me there? And we're like, yeah, we'll take you to this bus stop that you need to go to. And he goes, oh my gosh, you don't know how much that means to me. And he gets in the truck, and we start going down the road, and he says, they just basically just let you out and drop you off, and you don't know where to go, right? And he goes, some of us go back to our old life, and there's some of us that do everything we can to stay away from that because we don't want to go back in the system. And I got thinking, gosh, why do we not have more places or more facilities to help people that get out? I mean, we have sober living, right? There are people that go through recovery, and we put them in sober living to help them kind of get their feet back underneath them and work on getting their life straightened out. Why don't we have that same type of thing for people coming out of jail and prison?
Yeah, I mean, they got the halfway houses, but that's not the same thing as what I went through that. I think I got out of prison 9 different times, and each time it was that same. battle, and I never made it. I'd make it a week or two, and then I'd be back in some of my efforts right now that I am working towards, but the state itself is working um, towards forensic peer support or justice involved peer support. And so we're creating a curriculum right now as a state. We're building a new curriculum. We're offering more services. They're actually hiring some peers in the prison right now to work in there as peer supports and things like that. So things are changing. Um, but it's not fast enough. Part of what my goal is with the UAPSS building downtown, it's not downtown, it's on 33rd, really a central location. It's for people getting out of jail, which is just up the street from there, or even prisons or whatever, can come over there and just they got a safe spot. There'll be some computers there. They can just come and, job search. We can do one-on-ones. We can meet with their POs with them if they want, all that kind of stuff. And so we're designing up some low cost memberships that people would be able to sponsor people in with. If we can get 2 or 3 of them going at the same time, then we'd be able to provide them services at a very low cost instead of all the high costs with the outpatient treatment costs a couple thousand a month because of the therapists and everything else. So we're trying to do non-clinical, just support stuff. And we will have a forensics or a justice involved section in there too.
Yeah. Well, that's some good stuff that you're doing because it's definitely needed. Definitely needed. You know,
It is.
I I had the honor and the privilege of sitting in on a board meeting at the state capitol. And I had this lovely young lady come on the show that I met at Rally for Life up at the state capitol. And I went up and spoke to her after the event, and she came on the show. And her name is Elizabeth, and she's with the Utah Substance Use and Mental Health. And after the show, she said, "Hey, would you be willing to sit in on one of our board meetings? Because there are some people up there at the Capitol who their minds are starting to change, right? They're starting to see that laws need to change, and there's some new systems that need to come into place and do it the right way, right? Because what we've been doing all these umpteen years, it's not working. It's proof of it because it's happening every single day. And I was shocked. I didn't get a chance to go to the Capitol because it was on a Thursday and I was doing shows. And so I just jumped on the Zoom part in between shows. And I was actually shocked and also impressed about some of the individuals out there, which I would say was pretty much the majority of them, who said, it's time we make a difference and it's time we make a change. And, they meet every other month, and I'm hoping to get invited to the next one because I found it very interesting to hear what they want to do. And I'm so grateful that we have a state that is looking at making a change and a difference in our community.
Yeah, the beauty of it that I like, I mean, it is coming from the top too. And the beauty of it is they're embracing our voice, the actual lived experience voice into all the changes that they're making. It's kind of amazing to watch. One of the things we teach as peer support specialists in our trainings is nothing about us without us, right? And so I think the state leaders, legislatures, even some of the federal people are kind of taking that to heart and bringing it full circle. We're even having meetings at the jail now. We have some mental health roundtable meetings where the officers and different agencies around the state get together and we talk. How can we improve the services, right? Not just inside the jail, but outside, especially for the ones that the police are running into. They don't got any criminal charges yet, but they're starting. They just need some kind of support, and so we go in there and we kind of brainstorm together as a roundtable theory instead of just everybody being the boss and deciding. It's really cool to watch the way all these people are, they're opening up for the prison to open up and actually start hiring peer support specialists. That's huge.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I can't wait to see where the next 10 years goes.
Right. Yeah. I just in the short little time, which has just been a little over 2 years, that I have pretty much put myself in the recovery community. I've already seen little tidbits of some changes and also heard lots of voices, which to me it's just amazing. It's very impressive to see people. Gosh, you got Mary Jo from USARA, you've got Clean Slate Utah,
Oh,
Destiny Garcia, and you've got Rachel. Is it Santiago? Santiago, I think that's her last name. And people like yourself and Evans and Tiffany Nacarado and Dave DeRocher and Robin Sims and Johnny Farmer from Red Barn. You've got all these places that people are getting together and going, okay, you're going to hear what we have to say. And
yeah.
this is what needs to happen, right? And they've probably sounded like a broken record for years. And it's good that they have sounded like a broken record because now people are listening, finally.
They are. It's kind of funny. I've been in this since 2010, 2011. Um, and back then, the system was totally built against any kind of recovery. It was more built to maintain and stabilize and maintain people, right?
Yeah.
And that includes just throwing them in prison and jails. Um, and then thanks to all those people you just talking about, the Mary Joes, the Tiffany's, even the BAM groups and all the Facebook groups that are out there. There's so many people are bringing the voices of people in recovery to the table. And so again, it's nothing about us without us. And so all them champions you just mentioned have really changed the whole system. You wouldn't believe the change that's happened from back then till now. Getting people employed, even for me, when I first got trained, there was like, we'll say 30 peer supports and 2 jobs in the whole state. And, and backgrounds was horrible. It took
Wow.
me 3.5, 4 years to get past my background just to be able to work at Valley. I finally did, but it took a lot of fighting with the system, right? And that's the same thing all these other agencies are doing. They're going in with a positive, welcome, but authoritative voice. This is what recovery looks like.
Yeah.
So
You-
now we're this. I want to invite you to this stigma, this grand challenge with the huntsmans and everybody else that are doing it. I'd like to invite you to them things because we're working. My group that I'm working under is the criminal justice side of things, trying to eliminate the stigma inside and outside the walls, right? And that's kind of what them other people and all them people use the champions of the recovery world are talking about, including you with this podcast you do.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Uh, gosh, where I was going to go somewhere and I don't remember which direction that I was going to go.
Disneyland.
Yeah, Disneyland, right? I've never been. I've never been to Disneyland. It's crazy. I'm almost 60 and I still have not ever been to Disney. So I don't know if I'll ever see Mickey Mouse. I don't
I,
know.
I took the kids a couple times when I was in jail. Remember I told you about that spark of hope them guys lit. It took them 4 months to get me out of jail. And so in that 4 months, I quit walking around in circles with everybody, and I just tried to figure out what a sober, sane life could look like.
Yeah.
So I mapped it all out. But one of my long term goals was, I had it through 1, 3, and 5 year goals. And one of the rewards for the 5 year goal was to be going to Disney World. I still haven't made it there either. That's like But I have taken the kids to Disneyland, which I guess maybe that counts. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it takes us a little while, right? So my wife, when we got married, she says, on our fifth wedding anniversary, you will take me to Hawaii. And I'm like, yeah, okay, okay. And thinking that it would happen, right? And then she fell into her addiction. And now here we have our 15th wedding anniversary coming up on Tuesday, the 30th. And we've been together 18 years and we still haven't been to Hawaii.
You gotta go. My wife did that. That's what my wife kept saying. I just kept, yeah, we'll go. You know, I'm busy. Leave me
Yeah.
alone. We'll go. So one day she just surprised me with some tickets. She'd been saving all the change I'd gave her for a long time. She just bought some tickets to Hawaii. I said, "Well, this isn't a very good time to get." But we decided there isn't a good time to go, so we went and got married out there. But
Oh, well, congrats. That's awesome.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, we've things have been tough financially, and I remember where I wanted to go with this, with you saying that it took you about 3 years, right, to with a big battle to finally be able to work at Valley.
Yeah,
That was one of the things that I was speaking with Liz about during our podcast. And I spoke to the mayor about it because we actually interviewed Mayor Mendenhall on the show too. And she's the Salt Lake City mayor, right? Not really with state stuff, but I still
yeah,
wanted to bring it up to her. And I don't understand, and you know this, Brian, because you've had to go through it, right? You put in an application and people actually put in their 2 cents of why Brian or why my wife Janan would be a good certified peer support specialist. And you send it in and the state accepts it and they go, okay, you're allowed to go through training.
yeah,
My wife went through the week's worth of training out at USARA. And about 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, she gets her certificate that says she is certified. She passed the test. She couldn't get a job.
yeah.
Why?
It's
Because of her background. So
right.
the state approves them to go through training just to let them down because of their background. And my wife got to a point where I really was afraid she was going to start going back down that road again, right? Because she's like, my life's worthless. I can't get a job. Every time she got hired on a job, she would be honest with them and say, hey, this was my background. It's not who I am today. They would all tell her the exact same thing. Oh, don't worry. It won't matter. Thank you for being honest. 3 jobs, they hired her. Her background check came back. She worked 3 days with one job, a week and a half at another one, and I think 2 weeks at another one. And then they turn around, they let her go
Yeah,
because of her background, because she has a violation of a protective order. And I think that was the majority of one because they said she had an assault on an officer at the jail where they arrested her and she was drunk and she fell backwards into a woman police officer and they threw a assault charge on her.
yeah,
And
yeah. That's the,
and I'm thinking this is bull crap. And that was one of the things I spoke to Liz about is that needs to be looked at, right? Because we want as society, we want the addicts and alcoholics off the streets. We have a lot of them who want to get their life back on track. They don't want to live that life anymore. And they do everything they can to get their life back on track just to have society and our state and resources to deny them. So where do you expect them to go? They're going to go back to what they know, right? Because they're like, what's the reason behind it? What good does it do? And it's that revolving door. It's that hamster wheel. We let them off just for a little while so they feel like they're doing something just to frickin' throw them back on it again.
I know it's horrible.
Right?
For for me, my background, I'm going to get quite a bit vulnerable here, and we're talking to the whole state. But years ago, me and my ex-girlfriend we was in pretty heavy duty psychosis, and she'd get violent, you know. And so we was arguing in front of the kids one night, and I decided my best role is to just get the F out of the house, right? And so I'm kind of trying to fight my way out of the house. I finally get out, go sleep in a field, and I wake up in the morning. They go call my family to come pick me up and get my stuff, and I get pulled over by these police officers, right? I'm thinking, this is nothing, right? I didn't do anything. Well, the night before, she'd tried to make up all these crazy charges to try to get me put back in prison because she didn't like me leaving the house when she was upset.
Oh
And
my
so she
gosh.
told them I tried to kill her and I tried to sexually assault her and all these things, right? I had like 2 first-degree felonies, a second-degree felony for trying to get out of the house, right? And so I'm thinking my life's over. I go to court. The first court date, the prosecutor says, "Oh, we'll let you off on a class B if you just plead to sexual battery." I said, and it's Thanksgiving, right? So what am I gonna do? Oh, sure, class B, let me out.
Yeah, right.
So this was like 14 years later when these charges came up. And it was what they didn't want me to prove was because I was fighting with her in front of the kids, and DCFS got it in their data banks. But really, all that stuff, nobody, I mean, even today, sometimes people, they see it on paper. And so they make all these judgments of what happened. Um, and then you're scarred for life. It's kind of crazy, but really they're just words on paper. We need to figure out how to figure out what happened, what really happened. Me and that girl that we was talking about, we're still good friends to this day. You know what I mean? She was just mad and telling the cops a bunch of crap, but it's crazy how things, just a couple words inside of some judicial paper can wreak so much damage on people's lives. It still haunts me today.
Oh, I
I
can
mean,
imagine.
I could be working in the prison. I could be doing all kinds of things. But it's just part of my past. You know what I mean? It's if people want to know the real story about it, then I'll tell them. If they don't, then they can prejudge me. I don't care. It's not going to stop me from doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But but it kind of plays into what your story is, right? They're kind of holding everybody back. It's not really the state. It's more the BCI people and not the state. They're kind of two different systems, but I agree they need to get they need to kind of join together.
Yeah.
Ross is kind of helping with some of that stuff, at
Yeah.
least for the lower grade charges. For people like me, Rasa couldn't really help me too much, but
Yeah.
for other people with lighter charges, they could. I got way too many charges for that to help me.
And I love that that you shared that because I remember when this whole situation happened with my wife and it was against her sister's husband, so her brother-in-law. And they actually said that they dropped the charges, right?
Yeah,
And uh the state decided to still come after her, and they came after her. They found her. They arrested her on the spot. She went to jail. She had her court date. Her sister and her brother-in-law showed up, which I really did not want them there. She did not want them there. And I was hoping that how do you say it, her public defender was going to talk to him, because I said, you ask him to go talk to him. And if they said that they dropped the charges, I want him to say it at the judge that they dropped the charges. Well, this prosecutor on the other side had dealt with my wife before with some of her drinking charges, right? I don't know if he just had a freaking hair up his rear end about her or what. Anyway, he got her to plead guilty on it so she could get out of jail. Like, they're like, we will release you today. You just plead guilty. She had no clue. And what ticks me off too is her attorney, basically her public defender, just said, hey, take it. You want to get out of jail, get out of jail. But he didn't say, you know what? If you take this, this is what it's going to do on your record. It's going to come
Yeah.
back and bite you. And nothing was ever said to her. And it came back and bit her. She could not find a job because of that. And she didn't do it. You know, I was witness. I watched her brother-in-law yank her back inside the house. And when I went running in there, here's this guy got this 5'2" girl weighing 120 pounds in a freaking bear hug, and he's 5'9" or 5'10", weighing 200 and something pounds, whining like a baby. Oh, she hit me, she hit me. Oh, she bit me, she bit me. And I'm going, you got to be kidding. You yanked her back in the house, right? Now she's the one going to jail. I don't, it's messed up. It's the whole system is messed up. And I agree with what you said, Brian. They need to do more investigating and figure out really what's happened, because I had an opportunity to go to jail once from an ex-wife that said I beat her. And she actually called one of her friends and said, Al just headbutted me a number of times. And she had 2 black eyes. She had just had sinus surgery that day and also had some teeth pulled. Of course, she's got black eyes.
Yeah.
I went and played a doubleheader softball game. I came home, she's gone. Next day at work, I get a call from a police officer, an Officer Skinner. I still remember his name, Officer Skinner in West Jordan, that said, we just had a spousal abuse case filed on you here at the West Jordan, and we're going to come and get you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I never touched this woman.
I know.
I
That's
never laid a
right.
hand on her. And they said, well, she has a girlfriend here that said that you did. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I'm thinking I'm going to go to jail for something I didn't do. Luckily, they just came and they kicked me out of the apartment that I was paying for. Right. So I had to leave. She put a restraining order on me. And while I had the restraining order on me, guess what?
Huh.
She stripped the place and freaking took off. I mean, she
Yeah.
didn't take everything. I guess I can't say it was everything, but she took a lot of stuff and she just disappeared.
Yeah.
And the state was still going to come after me. I was looking at some, I don't know, jail time, probably like 3 or 4 months of jail time, and I didn't do anything. And they didn't even want to listen to what I had to say at all.
Yeah, they didn't me either. And there was like 3 officers that arrested me. And one of them said, "Oh, this is just a joke. Just forget about it, right?" And so I wasn't worrying about it until I woke up the next day with all them heavy duty charges. I'm thinking, what in the heck, you know?
Yeah, right?
So it's holy cow! But it's crazy what they can put on paper, and since it's a legal record, it's true to everybody, you know, and we got to fix that somehow, or at least we got to come up with a society that is willing to say, I don't know what that word really means because I wasn't there.
Yeah, right?
Let me try to see who this person really is. Let me give this person a little bit of trust to just see who he really is, right? Or who she really is with your wife. And that's what I'm trying to get at with this smashing stigma thing we're doing, the grand challenge thing.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, please invite me to it. As long as it's like in the evening time, I should be able to make it because I do work during the week. Just Thursdays are my off days because I do the shows.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I would anything that we can do and we can make, I love to come out and support and be a part of, and being involved with the recovery community. I have met some of the most amazing individuals I've ever met my whole life. And I've said this repeatedly on the show, and I will continue to say it because it's true.
it definitely is. Even inside the walls, all them people in jails and prisons, there's a lot of good people I know. And
Yeah.
then you talk about all the champions out here in the recovery world just making so many changes. It's crazy. It's a blessing to be a part of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you on it, Brian. And please make sure you email me any kind of links or information that you want me to put down. So when your show comes out, that information's there, right?
Okay.
Because we always want to make sure if someone has a book or that they work for an organization or whatever it is that they have, we want to make sure that we get that on the show notes in case people are interested, because you never know who's going to listen to a show and go, oh my gosh, I know someone that could use that, right? And we want to save them some time by already having that information there for them.
Yeah.
Your show will be coming out. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that after we're off the air, but I'll let you know. And I will also make sure that you get the links to it and you can use it however you see fit, Brian. You can share it on whatever social media you want to. You can post it on your website if you have one. It's the show's basically yours to use as well, because what you've shared today is very important stuff and it needs to be shared. And you know this just as well as I do. The recovery community is all about using our voices. We've talked about it many, many times throughout the show. And that's what's gonna make the changes.
It is creating them ripples. There's so many people making ripples all over. Not
Yeah.
just in Utah either. It's kind of worldwide. I go to a lot of national conferences. People are. I'm kind of just a pawn compared to a lot of these other people. Um,
I don't know. I don't know if you're just a pawn, my friend. Yeah, I'll share this and I've shared it on shows before. Probably a lot of our listeners are getting sick of hearing it. Uh, we interviewed a beautiful young lady out of Arizona. She's 30 years plus clean, long-term recovery. She has a son that's battling addiction. She was at church one day and she's talking to her friend saying, every time the phone rings, I'm afraid it's someone going to tell me that my son's dead. It's that fear. And she said her friend said, you know, there are people who have not been able to beat their addiction because the grasp has got a hold of them so tight. So God calls them back home to help them. And there are those who are able to get rid of those claws and go out in society. And now they're using what they have learned and what they have gone through to put their hand out to help other individuals. And she says, as far as I'm concerned, they're God's angels that's out there helping others. And I got teary eyed when she said that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. To me, that is so true. That's just how I'm seeing it, right? You know,
yeah,
I like to use this as when Jesus started walking the earth and started sharing the word, he picked the imperfect ones to help him spread the word, not the perfect
yeah,
ones, right? Because he knew the imperfect ones would understand more because of the lives that they chose to live or that they had fallen into. And I really do believe that there are so many angels out there that are now walking amongst us. And we mentioned a few of those names today in the show, you including, who are out there now helping others in their journey. And if it wasn't for you guys, where things are at right now wouldn't even be where they're at.
yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you very much for what you do. And yeah, all the people that you're helping and the new ideas that you're coming up with and the changes and being a voice, because we need them all, man. We need so many dang voices out there. And apparently you've been doing it since you said 2010 or so, and there's already been a huge change. And
Yeah,
that is cool to hear.
yeah. Not by myself, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's been around. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's many. Is there anything else you'd like to share, Brian, before we end the show? Is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think probably at all my journey, I was just thinking about it a minute ago when you was talking about the people struggling and stuff, about the moms, out there worried about if they're gonna get that phone call from their their kids, dying or whatever. one of the greatest pains of my whole life probably is me on the reverse side of that. I was in jail. My mom had no money, she says, but I'd call because I was afraid she was going to die before I could get out of jail again and give her a hug. And so I'd call every day just to hear her voice, and make sure she was still alive. Well, that was one of the greatest pains I've ever had to live with. And so for all them moms out there that are kind of going through the same thing, or for the addicts that are still out there just lost and suffering, I just want you guys to all know you can use that pain to change the world. And you can grow. It's all there. It's just a spark of hope that I'm trying to pass on to everybody. There's always a better tomorrow.
I love it. That's some really good advice. Thank you, Brian. That gave me some goose pimples on that one because it is so true. It's my friend Nick Smith, who him and his buddy Ryan, the Lion Morris, started a tribe of giants on Facebook, and they have people from all over the world on this Facebook page, and it's all about resilience, being small at one time in your life and now becoming a giant, right? Making a difference.
Yeah.
And it's okay for us to feel the pain. It's okay for us to be depressed. And it's okay for us to be happy or sad. We don't want to stay stuck in it though. Feel those feelings, and then whatever it is that we're going through, face it head on and know that it's still a blessing. And that's basically what you were saying, right? It's a blessing. It's not a curse. It may seem like it is, but it's not. It's a blessing.
It is.
Yeah.
One of my original sayings back when I was working with a lot of people in rehab was you got to feel it, then you let it go, and then you be the ripple, right?
Yeah. It's so true. It
You
is
do.
so true. Yeah. Yeah, we have to allow ourselves to feel it, because what we've done in the past, right, is we've held it in, right? We didn't feel it because we didn't want to. And I had a really bad anger issue back in my teenage years into my 20s, where I would fly off the handle in a flipping second. And I didn't care if you were bigger than me, smaller than me, I mean, I was coming at you, and I didn't even care if I got my ass kicked. My anger, my blinders were on, and I'm going, and I hit, I don't know how many walls, and put my fist through, I don't know how many freaking doors, and spent hours at emergency centers with them pulling wood out of my my fists and things like that. Then one day I hurt someone that I cared about. And when I saw him laying on the floor, curled up in a ball, I'm like, what am I doing? This is
Yeah.
not who I want to be. And I went through therapy for 6 months. And it really, really opened my eyes that change is possible. And you don't have to be where you're at. And I found out during therapy, all the stuff that was happening to me as a child into my teenage years, I was holding it all in. I wasn't allowing myself to feel those feelings, because you may have been brought up the same way. I was brought up that don't you dare frickin' cry. You buck your damn crap up and deal with it and move on, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not blaming my parents, because that's how they were raised, right? And I'm not blaming my grandparents. It's just
No.
that's how society was, right? They did the best that they could, right? However, that's what society has put upon us. And it's caused us to not allowed to feel our feelings. And when I had all that stuff just boiling inside of me, all it took was just a little tickle under my nose of a feather to set me off. And it was me releasing all that crap, right? And all it was causing more damage in my life. It wasn't fixing anything. It was just creating more crap I had to put back inside me.
Yeah. And more destruction to hold. So the next
Right?
time, it's more explosive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time, buddy. I greatly appreciate it. It's definitely a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show, and great to meet you. And I'll definitely be meeting you in person tomorrow because we will be going to the event. My wife and I will be there unless something weird happens. But I know we both have it down in our calendars to go there, so I will definitely be looking for you. And
Awesome.
yeah, just again, thank you for your time and greatly appreciate it. And thank you for what you do in the recovery community.
Yeah, thank you, my friend. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow
Thank
or
you.
somewhere along the journey.
Yeah, right. Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you to all our listeners, our sponsors, our guest co-hosts, and thank you to Resilience Talk Network for everything that you guys do. We couldn't do this without you guys. We love and appreciate all your support that you give us. And I feel so humbled and so grateful that our show is out there reaching a lot of people. And, a show's going to be coming out that you guys will see, and hopefully you'll see it before you actually see this one, that talks more about what the other side of addiction is all about, what the podcast is all about. And we want to make a change. We want to help as many people as that we can. And even if we just help one person, that's one person that will help someone else, and it'll just be the snowball effect. So guys, again, thank you for everything that you have done. And we're going to leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.